All right, everybody, welcome back. My name is Ben Warshaw. I lead partner operations at DBT Labs. Excited to have you here for our last session of the day in this room, adapting data at the speed of business with Sigma and DBT. We've got Jake Hannon from Sigma Computing here with us to present. And fun fact about this guy right here, he's in the top 1% of people on DBT Slack if you count the number of messages sent. Speaking...
Proud of that, or
I think you should be super proud of that. There's a lot of people in that Slack, so to be in the top 1% is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Speaking of DBT Community Slack, if you're not already in there, head over to community.getdbt.com. You can get in. All Q&A and chat for today's session will be in Coalesce Adapting Data on the DBT Slack. And just to keep in mind, we're about 30 seconds ahead of the virtual viewers, so let's try to keep spoilers to a minimum, but if they're really juicy, go ahead. Without further ado, Jake Hannon.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Excited to be here with you all today. So yeah, adapting data at the speed of business with Sigma and DBT. A lot of words, but we'll get into it. Again, my name is Jake Hannon. I lead data at Sigma. I think my title is Senior Analytics Engineer. Do a lot of things, but I have a lot of fun as well. So what I want to talk to you all about today, I kind of want to give a little bit of background about myself in the data world. You just heard I'm in the top 1% of Slack at DBT, and so I've been here for a while, and I want to share some of my learnings. And then we'll also talk about kind of some recurring themes that I've noticed in my career and really why I made this move to Sigma. And then this sounds like a campaign slogan. I might use it, called Building Better Together. We'll talk about what that means in the context of DBT and Sigma. And then finally, we actually talk about something that we just announced, our integration, really kind of unifying DBT and Sigma so we can all work better together. Cool. So a little bit about my background. In 2017 is where I had my first foray into the data world officially. I started as a data analyst in the telecom world. And then shortly thereafter, I moved into the renewable space as a data analyst, and that's where I found DBT. Tyler Blevins, if he's watching, he was one of the first folks to attend DBT Learn. That was with Claire Carroll in Philadelphia, which is pretty neat. So I learned about DBT. We were on Snowflake, and so I got this really awesome experience to learn about the modern data stack, sort of in its early years. After that, I moved to be a consultant, primarily working for a CPG company, which was interesting. And then shortly thereafter, I became an analytics engineer for an e-commerce startup. And now I lead the data platform team at Sigma. And so why am I telling you all this, and why does this matter? In most workflows today, I hope this resonates with you all if you're data practitioners. The general workflow in today's world, a stakeholder will come to me and say, I need this now. OK, great. And so then what happens right after that? We scramble. The things that I wanted to work on throughout the week, they're kind of out the window. And so we get this deliverable, we get it shipped, we did it, we feel great, nice, amazing. But then the next week happens and we have the same types of requests. And so we're in this unforgettable loop of not pain and agony, but something like that. And so when I'm doing these things week in and week out, I've delivered value, but at what cost? I want to work on a lot of strategic initiatives for the company, but I also have to deliver for my stakeholders as well to drive value for the company. And so while I've been doing this at all these different places, there's always been a few recurring themes throughout. This example here, nice, but can you make it more tabular? I very distinctly remember being in an office, walking down the halls, and everyone had their Excel spreadsheet, and they were just saying, hey, this dashboard is really great. But can you just give me the raw data? I really just want to go and explore it. And so while I've spent hours and days, agonizing over pixel-perfect dashboards and all sorts of tools, there's always been one common theme. And again, throughout all of this, the spreadsheet for me has always existed, whether it's someone exporting data out of a tool, doing their own things, doing pivot tables and other sorts of manipulations in all of these companies. And so for whatever reason, us as data practitioners, we've been using new tools, but there's always been this one common theme, and that's always been the spreadsheet. I think most folks in the business, you're shown Excel at a very young age. It's used in college, undergrad, and all these sorts of things. And so people are, in today's world, in your organizations, are making use of this. If you don't think they are, then I think you haven't talked to them enough, because in every job that I've ever been in, that has always been the case. Always been. It's all spreadsheets. And so what does my current world look like? And this is fundamentally why I came to Sigma. I find that if we can just give our end users an experience that they've always known, built on top of the cloud, built on top of Snowflake, then we can have a much more consistent workflow, and I don't have to spend all my days doing everything for the business at the last minute just to get them what they need. And so with this, we start to bring in familiar concepts like lookups, the ability to pivot, again, all on your data in Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, whatever it might be, which is great. And so what's this notion of building better together? You know, I just showed a spreadsheet with data directly from Snowflake, but how does this all work? You know, we can talk about it all day long, but what does it actually look like in practice? And so one very niche example, I always have a difficult time when I'm working on something in development in dbt and then actually articulating that to someone. It's often very easy to say, hey, I made this change, what do you think? With Sigma, I actually have the ability to pull in a prod table, also pull in my development table that I've changed some code in dbt, and I can hang out with folks in live chat. We can be in there together. This feature is called Live Edit. And so Zach here decided to take a look at this, did some review, and now we're ready to ship and deploy, which is awesome. Now, this is just one small example, but what I want to talk through now is something that I had a lot of fun with. And so I want to introduce you to John. Everybody say hi to John. So John is a senior director of solution architecture and evangelism. Awesome title. Wish I had it. John does a lot of things here at Sigma. But one of the fundamental things that he's done many years ago, he decided that we should have a best-in-class usage dashboard, right? So how can our customers understand the types of queries that are being run, what types of workbooks are their users using in a way to kind of manage their platform? And so when John and I talked about this, you know, he had a few pain points. He's a business user and he's built a lot of things in Sigma, but so he's struggling with, you know, we have a data availability SLA of about a day. All of his logic that he's used to create this dashboard is embedded directly within Sigma, and he's mentioned to me, you know, hey, I have this difficulty in maintaining our single source of truth. The things that he has built, our internal team is not actually able to leverage at this point, because it's kind of off in its own space and locked down. And you know, we're working with big data sets. The event table that John has been using is 30 billion rows and counting. So we have a lot of things to optimize for John, and how do we do that together? So this is what John sent me when we first met. Good luck reading it. I stopped reading it as well. But this is kind of his ERD and his flavor. And so this is generally the kind of workflow that you would expect with most tools. A business user would come to you and say, I know about these 5 sources, here's the things that I want to do. And in a general workflow, it would be the constant back and forth of, here's this thing, I have this idea, okay, I developed this, I hope it works. And it's always this back and forth, and it's a pain. But so with Sigma, as John has been building these in his Sigma organization, all of the Excel-like functions that he's been using to do all these definitions and transformations, they all get, one, they're easily searchable in the formula bar itself, which feels like Excel. But the other thing that we do is we also compile all of these functions directly to SQL. And so myself, as an analytics engineer, I'm able to go into his workbooks, understand which sources he's using, what types of business logic he's applied, and we can actually see that compiled SQL directly as we send it to Snowflake. So I'm actually able to see all this much more quickly than I ever have before. And so let's start building, right? So if you use dbt, this should look familiar, I hope. Basically, like I mentioned, we have 30 billion events for all of our different microservices that we use to actually create these visualizations in Sigma and hit the warehouse. And so using things that I've learned in the community, if you see on line 4, we've got our multiple argument unique key, which someone in the community, TJ, had showed off. And so we do things like that. We're able to add incremental transformations, and so we don't have to do full table scans of 30 billion rows because that's expensive, and we don't want to do that. And so we break out all of these different parts of the DAG here. And as I've been developing this over the course of the last few weeks, once I have something in development for John to work with, he's able to pull that in directly and start building off of it. And so John and I, like I said, he's able to explore these development models. He can ask questions directly within the workbook that he's building off of, tag me in it, say, hey, I've got this thing, this doesn't make sense. I looked at the column details, there's too many values, and so we can work together in a way that I've never been able to before. And so based on this feedback, I'm able to iterate much more quickly and get something built, which is awesome. And so this is the final model. Again, making use of all of the great things that dbt has to offer. We're also able to cluster this table, so the 30 billion rows have now come down to somewhere on the order of 400 million, which is great. And this is our kind of final DAG here of the query events. And so a lot of different sources happening here. We are hosted on both AWS and GCP, so we have databases in both. We have to union all those together, and we do all of that with dbt. And along the way, we're adding all of our tests and documentation so that folks can understand what's actually going on in this thing. And so what's the result? We have 400 million rows in this table. We're heavily clustered on the day of the query and then also the organization, which then gets passed to our embedded dashboards. And based on that DAG, we're able to run these transformations every hour, and the actual run itself runs in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, which is pretty awesome. And so what does this look like for our customers? If you are on a free trial with Sigma or you're a Sigma customer, you have the ability to see this for yourself. What you're seeing on the screen is actually our Co-Rise organization that I also help teach. But so I am able to go into this, and this is all built off of our dbt model. This is a Sigma workbook embedded directly into our application. So we're taking all the best bits of what we think of as this model Sigma customer and giving it back to you, which I think is really powerful. And so now we have Happy John. I don't know, I think I changed his face a little bit. I think he's smiling, I'm not sure. But we've gone from an SLA of about 24 to 26 hours down to an hour. We can increase that if we want. We could run that job every 30 minutes. Now we have this single source of truth of codified core logic directly within dbt. Our internal team can actually see exactly what our customers see for the first time, so they can understand if someone is a prospect and trying to learn about Sigma, how they're doing, what types of things they're interacting with. And the last bullet is people are actually somewhat confused about why it's so fast. And again, this is all enabled because of dbt building all of these objects directly within the warehouse, and Sigma connecting directly to the warehouse, compiling SQL, and visualizing it for others to consume. Cool. So we talked about how dbt and Sigma work together today, and some of the optimizations that you can use as an analytics engineer to give really performant data sets to your customers or stakeholders. But the other thing I want to talk about is bringing the information about dbt runs directly to your stakeholders where they work. I think a lot of platforms today, in the context of the modern data stack, there's been so many tools to help advance the data team. But what I find to be troubling is that when you have all of these tools and you're a business user, you sort of get inundated with where to find things, right? So I've got a data lineage tool, I've got a data catalog tool, I've got my BI tool, I might have Excel. You have all these things for a business user, and really they just want to work in one place and get the insights and then move on. So with that being said, the other thing that I'm sure you can all resonate with as part of a data team using dbt, Erica, our lovely product manager, pinged me about a week ago and was curious about when one of our data models actually updated. And she also capitalized dbt. I tried to talk to her about it, see what we could do. And so this happens all the time, right? Like folks they want to understand the state of data. They want to understand the tests. No one wants to work with bad data, and no one also wants to work with stale data. If you're trying to make decisions, you need to have trust in what has been built for you. And so today, well, as of yesterday, I think, we're excited to announce our dbt Cloud metadata API integration. So if you are a dbt Cloud customer, with just a few clicks, this is our admin panel here, you can add your dbt Cloud metadata API token, configure a few jobs that you care about for your production runs. And with this, once you've set that up, we can now pull in all of your DBT runs, we will grab the latest run as it happened in production. We will tell you about the types of tests and their status, when the job actually ran, and then of course, all of your documentation, which is so critical and important, the model description, all of the individual column descriptions, all of this is now available in DBT, and so there's no need for your business user to run to DBT docs or to run to some other system. Maybe it's a Confluence doc where you tried to maintain some of these definitions, which if you do that, I'm sorry. It's very difficult to maintain. And so with this, we're really just at the beginning or the inflection point with our partnership with DBT. I don't want to spoil anything, and I didn't write anything down because I didn't want any screenshots. But this is really just the beginning. I think with this integration and this partnership, things that we're thinking about is how we can more closely integrate. And so things I'm thinking about, the use of meta tags from DBT, how we can use that to actually push different functions into Sigma and do certain things. And then also visualizing this within a workbook directly. Today it's available when you go to look at a table, but we'd also like to incorporate this directly within our workbooks so you can learn a little bit more right there within the dashboards that you've created. And I think I talk way too fast. That seems like that was fast. That's been 16 minutes, but that's actually all I have. I'd love, I'll be hanging around for questions or anything, but I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for coming.
That was fast. I wasn't ready. Thank you so much, Jake. Great talk. Again, round of applause for our 1%er in the DBT Slack. Q&A will keep going on in that channel for a while, but this is the last session here for the day in the ecosystem room. So we'll see you tomorrow.